The law reveals our need of God's mercy. If, through the teaching of the law, we have progressed to this point, we must, under its guidance, descend within ourselves. We will then draw these two conclusions. First, when we compare the righteousness of the law with the life we lead, and when we see how little we comply with God's will, we recognize that we do not deserve to keep our place and position among His creatures, still less to be reckoned as His children. Second, in weighing up our strengths, we should regard them not only as incapable of fulfilling the law, but as non-existent. Accordingly, we are bound to distrust our own powers and to feel distress and trepidation of heart. For conscience cannot bear the burden of sin without at once envisaging God's judgment, and the thought of God's judgment brings with it the dread of death. By the same token, one's conscience has learned from experience that it is weak. It can only despair of its own strength. Both reactions produce despondency and humility. The end result is that man, appalled by the prospect of death and sensing that it is near, a just reward for his lack of righteousness, turns to God's mercy alone as to the only safe haven. Knowing too that he is incapable of paying his debt to the law, he despairs of self, longs expectantly, and looks elsewhere for help. The Lord, however, is not content to teach us only to revere His righteousness. He seeks to train our hearts to love it and to hate iniquity, and thus adds both promises and threats. Because our mind's eye sees so poorly that it cannot be touched simply by the beauty and integrity of virtue, the Lord in His kindness has chosen to draw us to love and desire Him by offering us a sweet recompense. He tells us, therefore, that He is willing to reward virtue and that no one will labor in vain who obeys His commands. On the other hand, He reveals that unrighteousness is not only hateful to Him, but also that it cannot escape punishment, since He is resolved to be avenged on all who despise His majesty. And to encourage us in every way, He promises both the blessings of this present life and eternal happiness to those who keep His commandments. It also threatens transgressors with physical calamities no less than with the torment of everlasting death. For the promise, he who does these things will live by them, and the corresponding threat, the soul that sins will truly die, undoubtedly refer to future death or immortality, which have no end. The fact is that wherever mention is made of the Lord's goodwill or of His wrath, the first denotes never-ending life, and the second, eternal destruction. Now in the law there is a lengthy recital of present blessings and cursings. It is clear from the penalties which God prescribes how great is His purity, for He cannot bear wickedness. And in the promises we see how greatly He loves righteousness, for He will not let it go unrewarded. Thereto is demonstrated His wonderful kindness. For given that we and all that is ours are in debt to His majesty, whatever He asks of us He rightly demands, since it is owed to Him. To repay such a debt does not deserve recompense of any sort. He thus lays aside His right when He offers us a certain reward for our obedience which we do not render willingly, as if it were not a debt we owed Him. Now how we may benefit from the promises themselves we will shortly learn. For the present, it is enough if we believe and understand that the promises in the law are a forceful endorsement of righteousness, allowing us to see more clearly how much God approves its practice. On the other hand, we must understand that the penalties are meant to make unrighteousness even more abominable, lest the sinner become so drunk on the sweetness of his sin as to forget that God's judgment is already prepared for him.